Hello. Okay.
Yeah, it says you were live, so
Okay, great. Hey guys, it looks like we're here with Martin Kinney, and it looks like Facebook may be working out for us as well. So let's just see what we've got going here. Let me know if you are seeing us well and hearing us well. And welcome, welcome, welcome to Conversations with Gaia. You guys know how much I love you and coming here on Wednesdays like this. And we're going to have a lot of fun today. I've just spent the last hour talking Martin's ear off. I think if he got 10 minutes in on me, he was doing good. You guys know me, but I was so excited to connect and be able to prepare and be ready for you all as well. So let me know once this catches up if we are actually, it says we're streaming on this end. So I'm hoping and trusting that you guys are going to be able to come in, and we'll just keep on going. So today, first of all, let's thank the Akashic Academy Network, Emily and Nick, who have really done a stunning job at keeping this going and putting this whole concept together and bringing this type of material to Facebook and allowing for this to be such a forward-moving and dynamic community. So we're so thankful, as always, for this and for all of you who come in and share and connect with us as well. And we'll also now just kind of like welcome Martin officially, Martin Kinney, who is I did the whole write up and then I didn't even have it here so I can read it. Hold on.
yeah.
Lord have mercy, Robin. But Martin is a student of syncretism, which is the science of harmonizing the different teachings, cultures, sciences, religions, philosophies from current schools of thought, as well as from the ancient mystery schools. Over the last few years, he's dedicated his life to trying to piece together the workings and mysteries of our collective reality. Where are we? What are we? Why are we here? And where are we going? I love it. The fundamental idea behind syncretism is that the answers to these questions do not belong to any one culture, race, religion, or book, but in fact encoded across the full spectrum of our collective reality within this realm. So Martin also has bringing together all these physical sciences, philosophical science, as well as spirituality, has built a model that he proposes our universe could be from a geocentric perspective. He incorporated the cosmic egg model, which most ancient cultures subscribe to, and even modern heliocentric science alludes to. So welcome, Martin, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show and be our guest here.
Oh, thank you, Robin. Thank you for that grand entrance. I don't deserve that.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. We had a fantastic chat pre-air, so I am buzzing, and you've lit my fire tonight. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good, good, good. I think we got Paul, who let me see. So Paul's in the house. Hey, Paul.
Hi guys.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much. And Paul, you know, as always, I love hanging out with you, my brother, and you bring such good energy to what we're doing here. So Martin, please jump in and start sharing, you know how you got here.
Yeah, I think my story is very similar to most people who've had an awakening, or a lot of people at least. From a young age, I sort of I always had a feeling that something wasn't quite right about this reality that we're in, but I could never pinpoint it or point my finger at it. I grew up in a very strong religious family. My grandmother had a church. She ran a church. So I grew up surrounded with that very strong Pentecostal Christian energy. And even though I subscribed to it quite fully and I was immersed in it because I was raised in it from a young age, there was always this niggling feeling that something's just not quite right. Anyway, cut a long story short, I eventually left home. And when I left home, I grew up in Africa, by the way, in Zimbabwe. I came to the UK to study and pursue a life. And I left religion. I got into science. And I felt maybe there are more answers in science. You know, I've done the religious thing. Things aren't making a lot of sense. Why are some people rich and some people poor? Where's this God everyone talks about? You know. So I got into science. And again, after a while, just no answers. So many things just didn't make sense. I hit another brick wall. And then around about 2011, I came across the internet, and this whole world of ancient aliens propped up. You know, the Anunnaki and ancient aliens, and all of a sudden, it's something that sort of fused the two worlds of religion and science. And I thought, wow, this is it. This must be it. This is where the answers are. So I got into that around about 2011, 2012, and but not seriously, just more like a side thing. Up until about 2016. In fact, exactly 2016, my 32nd birthday. Mind you, from about the age of 12, I always had this feeling that I was going to die at the age of 33, and I couldn't figure out why. Why do I feel like I'm going to die at 33? Anyway, 32nd birthday approached, 2016. And I got depressed, super depressed. You know, I felt at the time I must be going through a midlife crisis. This is what a midlife crisis is. I didn't want to live anymore. I felt like there's no point to life. Nothing made sense. I had a little business I was running. It wasn't working. Nothing was working out. I wasn't happy in my marriage and my family. And I just wanted out. I really wanted out. I wanted to just leave the ship and get off. And then, so this particular week, the week of my 32nd birthday, I sat down. I said, right, I'm going to take some time off work. I'm going to leave my business alone. I need some downtime and really have a real think about where this is going, because it's starting to scare me now. I'm super depressed. And that week, I sat down. I was on the internet. I was on YouTube, and I was watching an ancient alien video. I forgot what it was. And a little icon came, a suggestive icon on YouTube, you know, and it was man who believes Earth is flat. So, of course, like most people, I laughed and I thought, flat Earth? How ridiculous. You know, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. The Earth is 100% not flat. I'm going to watch this and have a laugh for entertainment, value, and just laugh at this guy. He's clearly delusional. So I clicked on it, and it was a guy called Dave Murphy. And he was presenting flat Earth cosmology on Macedonian TV, national TV. So I was eating something at the time, and I remember sniggering and laughing as I'm eating. And then halfway through it, about 30 minutes through it, I'd stopped eating and I'd stopped laughing. And my thought process was, hang on a minute, this is strange. This man is making sense. He's making so much sense. But he shouldn't be making sense because the Earth is not flat. It's impossible. It's just not possible.
Right.
You know, there's no way the Earth is flat. But why is he making sense? Why is something resonating in what he's saying? And I could literally feel my pulse changing. I could feel my heart palpitating. It was a mixture of confusion, of anger. I was angry with him, of confusion, of excitement. I can't explain what was going on.
I can imagine. I went through it, so I know what you mean.
Yeah. So needless to say, I said, right, okay, after watching that, I thought to myself, right, I'm going to prove this guy wrong because I don't like how this is making me feel. So I'm going to debunk this crazy flat earth theorist guy and just prove him how wrong he is. Because one thing that I noticed was, even though I was defending my heliocentric belief, he seemed to know a lot more about the heliocentric model than I did. So he was saying, well, people believe that the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference and it dips 8 inches per mile squared and the sun is 93 million miles away and the moon, and he knew all the figures. And I thought, wow, he knows this stuff. So why is he, yeah, anyway. So I thought, well, let me educate myself on my belief. And then once I know a lot more about this, I can then come back to him. I'll get in touch with him and I'll put him right. I'll put him straight. So I took 2 weeks off to research this topic and, put this to bed. Needless to say, 2 weeks later, I had to eat humble pie. It was clear to me after 2 weeks of in-depth research down the rabbit hole that the Earth is certainly not what I thought it was. I didn't know what it was, but I thought it's certainly not what I've just read. And I thought, how have I overlooked this? And I realized that I knew nothing apart from, we're on a ball and we're spinning.
Right.
But once I dug into it, something in me started to tell me, this makes no sense. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. And then when I put it against what he was saying, the geocentric science, what he was saying made way more sense. So that's where my journey began. Anyway, on the 5th of August, 2016, something happened to me. I woke up in the in that rising that morning, and I had I think I must have opened a chakra, my crown chakra. I think that's what people say happened. But I had a moment of realization, deep realization. I just sat on the edge of my bed. The sun was coming out at me. I think I blanked out for a couple of hours, I think it was. And I just felt this serene peace within me
Mm.
and this weightlessness. And I can't even explain what it is, but those of you who've had this experience will know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, and I knew for a fact that, wow, this is where my journey begins. This is, I'm being born again. I'm now born again.
Right.
Everything was now a new experience for me. I thought, well, if the very foundation of where I live is not what I thought it was, if I've been deceived or if I've deceived myself about where I am physically,
Yeah.
I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing.
Like
And
everything's open for discussion at that point.
everything's open for discussion.
Yeah.
And that's where my journey began. And that is where my awakening began. My first awakening. I think I've had 3 awakenings, but that was my first awakening that happened. And yeah, and I sat down with my wife and I told her what had just happened. And maybe being a woman, you know, having that feminine energy, she got it straight away. She was like, "Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, of course we're
Yeah.
not spinning. Of course the Earth is flat. Yeah, that makes sense." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. It's flat." And she was like, "Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I get it." Um, so yeah, so the next step was for me to look at other things, you know. And Dave Murphy, the guy who had triggered this awakening, uh, happened to be a vegan as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, well, let me find out what else he's talking about. This guy who's, you know, who's helped me awaken to this. So it you know, took me down the realms of veganism, of fasting, of urine therapy, of all these things that he was talking about. So I went straight into a 20-day fast, just drinking distilled water for 20 days. And it's the best thing that I've ever done. So it detoxed me. Then I began my vegan journey after that. And that is where my journey began to where I am today, in a nutshell.
No, that's awesome. That's really good stuff. And I'm sure Paul can relate to this as well. I remember, like you said, a few years back when the whole flat earth thing came on, and I already was down so many rabbit holes. I mean, I actually, in fact, my mother calls me Alice. She says I stay in a rabbit hole. But so I remember I was down. I mean, I had dropped so many paradigms. I mean, I had already had a lot of the paradigms dropped: government, school, you know, vaccines, all that stuff anyway. But, you know, I went into some of the deeper ones that I kind of didn't want to look at, you know, that had a lot to do more with spirituality. Even though I had dropped the idea of going, you know, church and the organized religion, I still was kind of on the hanging out around, well, just in case Jesus Christ is the only way, I might want to hold on to that a little longer, you know, that kind of thing. So I was still kind of like just keeping in my pocket. And then like when I really just got rid of that one and say, come on, no, this is a lot of psyops going in that on that as well. Not that I don't believe in a God presence, more of what we talk about a lot on the show, a oneness, you know, universal consciousness, morphogenic field, all that stuff. When I came across the flat earth, so I'm all down this. I'm just really trying to get over my Jesus thing. And then talking about flat earth. And I'm like, I am not looking at this. I am not looking at it. I'm not looking at it. It's a psyop. I know it is. And so about 4 or 5 months went by. And every time a video went, I did not look at it. I'm like, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But as soon as I did this one day, I said, okay, I can't seem to avoid it. It's everywhere. I click on it and I look at it. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, I knew it. I knew we weren't on spinning balls, 63 million miles. I mean, come on. Like you don't see any of this. You don't see that. I mean, and everything just confirmed all those years I would be sitting in science class saying to myself, this is nonsense, man. Like, this doesn't seem right, you know, but having no basis for it. So, but I remember that, like that same experience of just, and at the same time being pissed. You know, you can decide either way, you know, are both of our experiences at the same end of it. You're still just pissed because it's like, this is not fair. This has been a long time lie. You know what I mean? And then like, what else are they lying about? Like, you know, stuff that I haven't gotten to yet, you know?
Absolutely. And that was the first emotion that I went through. Once the dust settled and that euphoria of discovering something that, oh my God, this is amazing, the anger came in. And
Yes.
I like, oh, I'm so angry. I can't believe this has happened to us. How is this? All these people, everyone on earth has been deceived about this. So I was so angry. I wanted to know who's lying, who's done this, who are these people lying, NASA. And I went on this militant vigilante crusade to expose them. I was on Facebook. Anyone that I met, I would tell them that we're being lied to. I didn't care if they called me stupid or crazy. I didn't care. I was so angry.
Yes.
And I went through that for about 6 months. And of course, I alienated my friends, my family, everyone. But because I had known this, I now knew it from deep down inside. I just knew it. I was not moving. I was like, I will stand for the truth. And if I die for this, I'm willing to die for the truth. I will happily die for it because people deserve to know the truth. And the truth will set people free.
Yes.
So yeah, I went through that stage. And then eventually 6 months later, it hit me once again. Okay, stop, right? Where's this anger going? What are you achieving by being angry? How are you? Nothing's going to change. And that was my second trigger. I came across a guy called Santos Bonacci.
Yeah, Santos.
And and he introduced me to astrotheology.
Yeah.
Which was another realm, another rabbit hole that expanded the whole flat earth thing. And that was my second aha moment, my second awakening. I remember listening to him. When I first heard him, I thought, what is this guy talking about? Yeah. I couldn't understand it. I was like, it sounds amazing. It's making me, it's giving me goosebumps and my the hairs on my back are rising, but I can't understand. I can't really grasp what we're saying, but it sounds amazing. Right. So I'd listen to it in the background for a few days and eventually it started clicking. The dots started connecting. And then I started just seeing the bigger picture and my second awakening happened. And I just realized that, wow, there's a lot more to this. Yes. So questions came up. The first question was, because when I got into this flat earth thing like you, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh my goodness, the Christians were right. The Bible's correct. The Bible says the earth is flat. So, right. Oh, I made a mistake. I need to go back to the Bible. It looks like, that whole thing was correct after all. So I became a Christian for about a couple of months during that transition period. And then something came back and went, no, hang on a minute. No. There's still some things that don't make sense. So Santos with the astrotheology helped me come out of that trap, because that's another trap.
Yes, it is.
Because the flat earth mantra was released with the idea that the earth is flat, there's a dome above our heads, we're stuck in this fishbowl, and there's God or something outside there. And everyone was saying that within the flat earth.
Yeah.
And again, that just didn't make sense to me. Just like, what, really? Like, God outside this fishbowl, we're in this tank? It just sounds like another prison to me.
Right.
The whole ball thing, I can see why we're given that. It's a prison. We're told that we're on this ball, we're flying through space, there's nothing out there, there's nothing to look for, you're just here with us, the government or religion or whatever, you're stuck here. That's a prison. Right. And then I thought this flat earth with the glass bowl above us and nothing else sounds more of a prison than the spinning ball. I'd rather go back to the spinning ball than this glass dome.
Exactly. I agree.
Yeah. So again, these questions came up and I thought, well, there must be more to it. And then I realized something. There were these memes going around, these memes, showing all the ancient cultures, which then brought back to, at school, we're taught all ancient cultures believed the earth was flat. They were ignorant and they thought the earth was flat. So I thought, well, whoa, if these ancient cultures were correct, it turns out that the earth is flat, what else do they say about our cosmos, about where we live?
Right.
So I thought, well, no one's asking this question in the flat earth community. Everyone's leading flat earth with the Bible or with religion. No one's leading it from a ancient spirituality perspective.
Right.
So that's where I thought I'm going to come in and I'm going to fill this space and I'm going to look into ancient mythologies, syncretism essentially, ancient mythologies, religions and all these things and see if I can connect the dots within all these different spaces of information. And of course, lo and behold, when I jumped down that rabbit hole, I was totally blown away by what all the ancient cultures said about our cosmos. In fact, they all said exactly the same thing, from the Dogons in Africa to the Nordics in Scandinavia, to the Celtics in Europe, to the North Americans, the Navajo. all of them are saying the same thing. The earth is flat. We live inside something called a cosmic egg, or an egg of some sort that is wrapped around by this giant snake with many wombs in this egg. And I thought, what is the snake? What are these wombs? What is this egg? How is this all fitting in? I don't understand this.
Right.
So again, on my 33rd birthday, 1 year, exactly 1 year after my first awakening,
Wow.
this second awakening happened. And this, I think, was my real awakening, where I dug into these ancient mythologies and started looking at what these ancient cultures said. And, my world really just opened up massively from there.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's good stuff. No, I appreciate that. And so Martin, what was the third time that the third aha moment for you? Because I've never heard it like this. I've never heard you put it like this. So this is good for me.
Yeah, so the third awakening, which I think was the third and final one, was a lot more personal, because the first two were very left brain orientated. So even though I had now tapped into this spiritual, metaphysical realm of, there's a lot more going on within where we are, I hadn't yet opened up within myself. So I was still, looking for physical proof of this. Oh, the earth is flat. Okay, we're being lied to. Who's lying to us? All these physical things. So the third one came about, again, almost a year later, which was last year. I had an outer body experience. So I went to bed one day. I'd done research. I just finished presenting the cosmic egg stuff. So that was now, so that was almost, that was out. I put that out there, and I'd found all that. I shared it, and I was almost like, well, my work is done now. I felt this burning desire to seek this information and to share it and to give it. And now, universe or whatever, I'm done. I'm good to go now. I've done my job. And then one day I went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night needing to go to the toilet to relieve myself. And I sat up in bed. And as I sat up to try and get up, I noticed my body still on the bed. So I looked back and I thought, wow, okay, what's going on? And I looked at myself, and I could see myself still dressed the same, but I'm also on the bed as well. And I thought, how bizarre. So, of course, the two things that came into my mind was, one, I'm either dead. This is what death is. I've now died. What happens next? Or I'm having an outer body experience. So I knew a little bit about it, but not a lot. I just sort of got in and out of it. So I thought, well, either way, I can't change anything. Let me just go with the flow and see where this takes me. So I thought, well, let me try and get up. So I tried to get up. And as I got up, I sort of hovered off the ground. My feet were not touching the ground. I thought, oh, wow, this is cool. I'm hovering. And I thought, well, let me try and walk to the end of the bed. So as I walked, I sort of just hovered, I wasn't walking. I was just sort of like hovering, gliding. That's it. And I got to the edge of the bed, and I remember turning back and looking at my wife and my body sleeping, and just in absolute amazement and shock, and thinking, this is insane. This is amazing. This is crazy. What's going on? And I thought, well, I'm just going to go with the flow. So I thought in my head, I wonder if I can fly. If I'm hovering, I wonder if I can. And as I thought it, my body started to rise up off. And as I was rising, I remember seeing the ceiling coming closer and closer to me. And I remember doing that, and the ceiling came, and I got into the attic, and I saw the attic. I went above my house, and it was just absolutely amazing. I was in the Superman position.
Oh, really? I love it.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the rows of houses, all the rooftops, right across my street, as far as I could see, and all the street lamps, and it was absolutely beautiful. And I lived across a church, and I saw the church. So there was a church in front of me, below me, and I looked back, and there was a full moon behind me. And at that point, I just thought, this is absolutely just beautiful. There's just something about me being in between this church, my body or my home, and this moon above me. Anyway, I live near the New Forest, so I thought, I'm going to go into the New Forest and have a look around, and just explore. While I'm doing this. If I'm dead, I'm dead. If I'm not, then whatever. Let me just enjoy this moment.
Right.
So I, in all intents and purposes, flew towards the New Forest. And of course, I saw all these trees behind me, full moon. It was just absolutely beautiful, so serene. And I'm just flying through the New Forest until I got to quite deep into the New Forest, and it was super dark, no street lights, no lighting, and I got scared. And I thought, okay, this is scary now. This is not it's not exciting anymore. It's getting a bit scary. I want to go back home. And so I made my way back home, and I got back and I sat next to my bed or my body, and I remember just feeling so tired, so drained. So I just thought, well, what do I do now? I'm just going to lie next to my body and just sleep because I'm so tired. So I lay next to my body, closed my eyes, and fell asleep. I woke up the next morning and opened my eyes first thing, looked around. Oh, I'm in my body.
Okay.
Oh, it was a dream. I was dreaming. What a crazy dream that was. That was my initial thought. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, when I was in the New Forest, I saw this pond because I lived in the area for quite a while, but there's this particular pond that I hadn't seen before. And it was actually two ponds with like a mound or a little hill in between the two ponds. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that before. You know, I've been to the New Forest a lot of times, but I've never seen this particular pond. How interesting. If this is real, maybe I'll come back one weekend with the family and we'll have a picnic or something here. Anyway, fast forward, woke up the next morning. My instinct was to turn around and tell my wife about this crazy dream I've just had. And my body was absolutely aching. You know, like when you haven't been to the gym or exercised for a long time, and then you go back and you exercise and you have that stiff.
Yes.
That's how I felt. Absolutely stiff. I couldn't move. And I thought, what is going on? And I had flu-like symptoms. I felt like I had a cold. So I thought, well, I must be catching a cold. How bizarre. I had that crazy dream last night. I woken up this morning with this crazy cold. I'm not going to go to work. So I called in sick at work. I'm not coming into work today. And I said to my wife, when you get back from work, I need to tell you something about this weird dream I had. Please remind me before I forget. So anyway, day went on. She came back from work and I told her what had just happened. And she thought, oh, wow, that's interesting. Anyway, I sort of...
You know, your wife seems like real laid back and cool, like very intuitive individual, man. She's like, oh, that's cool.
Massively. My wife has always been my grounding stick. So even before my awakening, when we first met, my wife hated watching TV. She hated listening to the news.
Yeah.
She hated reading newspapers. And I used to laugh at her and tease her all the time and say, what if there's a war tomorrow? You need to watch the news. What if they announce that there's a war and you'll have no clue what's happening? And she used to say, I can't listen to TV. I can't watch that. I can't do that. So she was, in a way, almost always awake.
Yeah, she was kind of
yeah, she almost yeah, she was in this static awake mode. So when I woke up, you know, nothing shocked her. She was almost like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go with it. When I came with the veganism, she was like, yeah, that makes sense. We shouldn't be eating animals.
Yeah,
let's go with it. Anyway, cut a long story short, eventually I sort of put that to the back of my mind, that outer body experience, until about a month later, when we went to the New Forest, we're driving through. Lo and behold, what do I see out the window? That lake.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
And I stopped the car and I thought, oh, my God, Gabby, that's the lake that I saw in my dream. And that was confirmation to me that it wasn't a dream. It was definitely an outer body experience. Yes. What happened was real. So that was my confirmation. And when that settled, that's when I really realized that I went back home, I meditated, I sat down, and my third awakening really happened. That's when I realized that, oh my word, I am more than this. There's a lot more going on than this physical. There's a metaphysical world that is definitely real, 100% real.
Right.
And and that was my third awakening, and this is when my spiritual journey began.
So that's awesome. I've never heard you put it together like that. So I appreciate that because it does happen in phases like that. Our awakening, our growth, our expansion is how I oftentimes refer to it. And that, you know, like a lot of times people think it's an automatic, oh, you know, one day you're like this and then the next day you're awaken and that's it. But it really is an ongoing process, right? Because we're just continuing. It's an expansion. You continue it, continue and continue. And as the way I see the expansion is like each time you gain more and you're able to assimilate that, you gain more, you expand and you expand. And that process really never ends. I mean, we're infinite and that expansion could continue. So it's not this one, this one and done type of thing. I'm awake, I'm done. It's, and I know everything I need to know. And that's a lot of times where I've had a hard time with, a lot of things in the community where people will sort of come online and then their way of doing it is the way that everybody should do and pay 11 for it. You know how that is.
Yeah.
And the magic number, and I'll be able to remove this implant or something. And, two things come to mind. First of all, that person isn't done. They're still developing and growing, and there should be some transparency and honesty there, in their sharing. And secondly, the idea that you talk about a lot, which is personal responsibility. This is not something that's just going to happen. Like the door is going to open and some kind of way you'll just flow in with everybody else without doing the work. You know what I mean? Like nothing in nature really works like that. And it's so important for people to take that personal responsibility with their journey, with what they take in, with what they believe. And one of the things you also say that I agree with, there's not one fit, like this can look so many different ways for so many people. I mean, you went vegan. I've been a vegetarian all my life. As a kid, I was the one who sat at the table because I wasn't going to eat the meat. I ate the vegetables. I killed the vegetables, but I had to sit there because all the starving kids everywhere. So I could not eat the food, my parents, old school. So I had to wait for them to leave the room and be gone long enough that I could start feeding little bits of meat under the table to my dog. Because that was the only way I was going to get it from the table. Because I didn't really care for it's just me. That's how I came in here. It just wasn't my thing. But I don't think that because if you do eat meat and that's your paradigm and you're moving through your life and it's balanced for you, I'm not one of these kind of people who discard that as a journey to the center either. You know what I mean? I really believe there's a lot of ways to get there, and we all have to be true to that voice inside of us. Like you have to do what you feel you need to do, because depending on what portal or what dimension or how you're going to transition or transmute, you need to have a particular light body or crystalline body for that to occur. And so because that's your journey, that's your way of formating into this next part of it. So I'm big on the idea of that personal journey. So can we move into how we talk a little bit about the cosmic egg and how that fits into sort of like the event and, that personal responsibility kind of piece of it? I know that's a big chunk of it, but I know you'll work it out for me.
Yes. Yeah. So that personal responsibility is really, really important. One thing that echoed quite a lot from even the first time I woke was that there are no saviors. No one's coming to save me. No one's coming to give me the answers. I've got to do this for myself. I've got to find my way out of this. Whatever is happening to me, I cannot shift the blame to them, because a lot of people are saying they are doing this. They. No. It's all about me. What am I doing? Where am I? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the biggest things. The other big thing was humility, being able to humble myself and being able to empty my cup in order for me to refill it. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yes.
So, for instance, there were times on my journey where I've had to come back and eat humble pie many times, right? And a big part of us, the ego, hates doing that, hates being wrong. So one big thing was in 2017, we discovered the North Pole thing, which I'll get into in a bit, that there's hidden lands at the North Pole. The Earth is flat, but there are other realms as well on this land. It's not just one realm with the fishbowl. There are actually many, many other worlds, which the ancient cultures called the wombs of Mother Earth. Mm-hmm. So we realized that there's this place at the North Pole, the Garden of Eden, Shambhala, Hyperborea, all these names given to this place. In excitement, I met up with some people on the internet, and we were all excited. We're going. We're going to make a trip. We're going to buy a boat. We're going to sail there. We're going to go. It's done. We're going to find this place. That's it. So we did a GoFundMe thing. We announced to the world, 2018, everyone, the whole world, we're going to free the world. We're going to go. And, we believed it 100%. Yeah. And again, when I had my outer body experience, things happened, and I met my higher self as well. So there are other things that happened as well,
Right.
and it became apparent that that is not the way to do it. You're not going anywhere. Basically, was the message I was told. Not yet. This is not how you're meant to be doing it.
Right.
Uh, you've still got lots to grow, lots to learn, and lots to learn and share.
Right. And
So, of course, at that point,
I remember that phase of your journey, and I remember thinking, because I'm open, so I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm buying into Martin, his journey. It's unique. I'm like, okay, let's see how this is going to turn out. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
I wasn't going to miss anything in case that boat was sailing.
yeah.
But I remember when you came back and you had so much integrity and transparency about that whole thing, and I thought that was awesome because that's real too. People, that's a lesson people get to learn from that. We don't get it right 100% all the time, but that's this journey. It opens you to that next place. So go ahead, continue.
Absolutely, Robin. And I think that whole experience was for me to shed my ego. That happened deliberately for me to learn to shed my ego.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember when I met my higher self said, nope, that's not happening. You're not doing it. I first had to go back to the team and say to them, guys, I'm out. This is not for me. I'm not doing this. And they're like, well, why? Have you lost faith? Do you not believe? And I was like, no, I do. I know I'm going to go, but this is not how I'm meant to be going. And of course, we kind of fell out because of it, because I let the side down, etc., etc. And then at that time, I had an online presence and I had a decision to make. Do I just disappear quietly, or do I go out to people and say I was wrong?
Right.
So I thought, no, I've got to beat my ego here, and I've got to come out and put my hands up and say I was wrong about this particular thing, and this is now how I see it, and this is the direction I'm going in. So a few of those things have happened. That was the biggest one, but a few of those things have happened on and off.
Mm-hmm.
And it taught me to be extremely, extremely humble and to take ownership.
Yes.
And to shed my ego massively, because that's the hardest thing for most people, is to admit that I was wrong.
That's the biggest thing the ego, that's the anchor. You talk about a lot of paradigms, and we can talk about food and religion and all these, but I'm gonna tell you that last bastion, that big one, is when it's all said and done, is that ego, like letting the ego know that I appreciate you being here to protect me, but I kind of got this piece of it, and really allowing the right brain and the left brain to be balanced, so that you're just not letting it run the show through the left brain and shutting everything else out. So I can appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. And one thing I learned as well, Rob, it became so obvious that every time I beat my ego, the universe rewarded me. The universe reward me with something. So every time I so for instance, when I put away that North Pole thing and I went public and I said to everyone I was wrong and and I ate humble pie, and loads of people were saying, see, I told you there were con artists and there were liars and and I had to swallow that humble pie and say, do you know what? Fine, I'll take it. That is when the cosmic egg stuff came to me. The universe said, right, okay, you've beat that ego. We're now going to give you a gift. This is the information we're going to give you now because you've transcended that.
Wow. Okay.
So literally within a month, within a month after making that announcement, the whole cosmic egg thing started flooding in. So initially it came in, I didn't research it. I sort of knew of it and I thought I'm going to research it, but it came to me as ideas, as thoughts. Oh, I wonder if maybe the cosmic egg thing is this electromagnetic torus field that Santos talks about. I wonder if there are other realms, maybe. And I came up with that model in my head, first of all, on my own, like a remembering. So that was a download that I received. And I thought at the time, well, I can't just represent this on my channel or to people without any proof, because people will say, well, how do you know this? And in fact, I don't really know this because it's just an idea in my head. So I thought at the time. So I thought, well, let me research ancient cultures and see what they said about this cosmic egg thing and see if what they said is kind of matching with what I'm thinking.
Right.
And lo and behold, it was almost exactly the same. I couldn't believe, as I was researching it, I was like, wow, it's exactly what I downloaded. So I put it all into presentation form and then I presented it, and that's how that came about.
And what's interesting too, because I remember, I as an artist, I've for many years been painting for 30 plus years, and I always did this model of this sort of cosmic egg. It was always in the air. It oftentimes could be the womb, the brain, the heart. Sometimes it morphed into these three organs. And I was just always painting this without really truly understanding what it was. It was just images that would pour in. And as I continued down my journey, I realized there's something called, there's a cosmic egg, and it's really connected. I've always sensed it's connected through our conception vessels, both male and female, because men have it as well, your connection back to the womb. And that this then connects back out to the more organic part of the universe that we've talked about when we were talking about a little earlier, the organic and inorganic. And about 5 years ago, you're probably not familiar with some of my work, but I downloaded this whole series of cards where they're images, and they're nothing but they're circles, and they're just eggs. They're nothing but all these portals. And I remember a whole session of them. There are 36 of them, and then I put them aside. And when I finished them, they were like, these are going to be like speakers cards. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've never been into cards or anything like that either. So I'm like, okay, gotcha. So I put them on the shelf. And then about 3 years ago, so 2 years after that, I heard, I had gone through some different things as well. But the short of it is that I heard, okay, it's time to go get those images. And now we're going to download the meanings to each of them. And so in one setting, all of them came through. And it's all based on the cosmic egg, the conception vessel, the Gaia, the portals in Gaia. And what I was told is that these stimulate the white matter in the brain, and it helps with your EQ and bringing a balance back to that emotional quotient, and balancing and beginning to communicate not through words, but through pictures and through symbols as we move into more telepathic communication forms. And that's what this does. It helps to open that up. But it was like this 30 years of just creating circles and creating heart-shaped things, and not hearts like heart, but actually the anatomical heart and what have you, that came into this. So I remember when you pulled up with that cosmic egg, I was like blown. You hear me? I sat there and I devoured everything, because I'm like, this is it. He's like actually put the meat to this model that's constantly been in my artwork and in these cards and everything. It was like really just that confirmation for me personally of my own journey, and like you said, I went in and did a lot of the reading on the Hindu and the tantric art and what have you, that a lot of the Hindu, that was a part of a very old tradition, where a lot of these symbols of circles and egg shapes and everything were just a part of that culture. So I just wanted to put that in there, because a lot of people know my cards, and I really wanted to be able to connect them back to this whole very ancient and beautiful connection to the past that this whole tradition is coming out of, and we're all coming back to. So we have probably about 10 minutes basically left in the broadcast, but I don't know that Paul's going to be able to get on his anyway. But and he and I do this. We have one show, we have two shows, we have three shows. Oh my God. It's so I'm so sorry that you guys can't talk. But when you look back at this, fingers crossed that it all works out, you'll be able to appreciate Paul Martin. So
I'm sure we'll have many more hangouts. I think we can do a part 2 and 3. I'm open to that as well. So
I would love that. I would love that, because we have a great network over here, and this is easy. And I just would love to even present you with a platform just to continue to put your stuff out and your ideas, and and I don't feel like things have to be fully baked, like I just think sometimes it's like beginning to put them out there, and they start taking a life on their own, or sometimes it's just a discussion, hey, what do you think about this, what do you think is going on here, you know what I mean? And we bring a lot of that to the table. So you're certainly welcomed here to hang out with Paul and I, and Paul would welcome it. I'm speaking for him. He's shaking his head, so you can't see any of this. He's putting his fingers up, he's laughing. He's like, yeah, definitely. So we'll take the next like maybe 10 minutes, and can you just sort of like introduce? I don't want to leave them everyone on the edge of their chairs like, what's a cosmic egg? So like just go ahead and break down basically the cosmic egg. I know it's really an in-depth conversation.
So in a nutshell, all the ancient cultures, so this is not just my thing, this is something that I'm relaying from ancient information, like I've said. The concept is that the Earth obviously is a plane, it's a realm, and it is what we call flat today, but it's obviously not flat in the way that it's depicted as. So it's a plane, and it's got many dimensions to it, other realms. And this plane, this vast plane, is inside something called this cosmic egg, which in modern scientific terms would call an electromagnetic field. Okay, so mainstream science calls it the cosmic background microwave radiation that encompasses our universe. So our entire universe is inside this electromagnetic field. And the plane is the plane of inertia. It's in the middle of this torus field, if you like, or this cosmic egg. So we're right in the middle. We're the center of the universe. And from my understanding, this Earth is divided into 4 dimensions at the moment. Actually, 5 dimensions at the moment. And these are 5 different worlds that are sealed off from each other at the moment. And they are sealed off by their own smaller or concentric electromagnetic torus fields. So imagine the Earth being like a ripple of water. So if you've got a still bowl of water and you dropped a drop of water in that, you'd get this concentric ripple coming out. You see it in nature. You see it with trees. When trees grow, they grow with these concentric rings. So the Earth is exactly that. You know, nature is my biggest proof. If anyone says to me, prove it, I say, look at nature, study nature. Yeah. The Earth is nature. Earth is Mother Nature. So whatever you see in nature, how cells reproduce, how trees grow, how water behaves, this is how the Earth is. So Earth is these concentric rings of land with these bubbles, if you like, torus fields, cocooning each one, almost like those Russian dolls. So a smaller one right at the center, and then a bigger one, and then a bigger one, and then a bigger one, and then a bigger one. So where we are right now, what we call Earth, this ring of land, is the 3rd dimension. We're in the 3rd ring. The first one is right at the center of the Earth, the North Pole, right in the middle. It's the 0-point axis. This is where the holy mountain is. That's called, you know, the Mount Meru, Mount Zion, Mount Olympus. You know, many scriptures and cultures talk about this holy mountain. This is where this is. So I don't think it's a physical mountain like we think mountains are, but I think that's just how it's interpreted as. But it's the central axis. And it's a world. And this is where the angels live, the dust avatars, the Palladians, whatever you want to call them, the guardians of the galaxy. This is where our higher selves are. So we've all heard this term that you've got a higher self. Yes. I think this is where our higher selves reside. This is the Polarian, the polar axis. Outside that, we've got something known as the Garden of Eden. So this central place would be the Eden, the ether den. A den is a home. So this is the home of the ether. This is where we get the word Eden from. Outside that, we've got the Garden of the Ether Den, the Garden of Eden. What sometimes is known as Shambhala, Hyperborea, Avalon, Acadia, all these different names that these ancient cultures called this place. This is now the central, this is the first physical place on Earth that's surrounding this etherical central axis.
Gotcha. Okay.
And of course, that central realm is cocooned in its own electromagnetic torus field. What we know as the Aurora Borealis. So that's a dome. What flat Earth is called the dome. So that's a small dome, an electromagnetic field, cocooning that inner world. And then the next one is us, where we are. We are now the 3rd dimension. And we, of course, have got our own dome, our own electromagnetic field, the Aurora Australis, or Van Allen belt, that is above us, that is encapsulating us. And then, of course, on the outer rim is our South Pole, which is a big wall of ice that is keeping everything in. So, and beyond that, of course, is another a ring with its own electromagnetic field, and beyond that is a fourth one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And each of these have got their own solar and ecosystems, what we call the solar system.
Mm-hmm.
So at the center, their sun and moon is androgynous, known as Mercury. Our sun and moon are Apollo and Artemis, our sun and moon that we see. On the outside, their sun and moon is Venus and Mars. And then on the last realm, their sun and moon is Saturn and Jupiter. And of course, these different realms have got their own, what I call root races. So in the center, at the moment, there is a race of beings that live there that are experiencing that paradigm, and they're known as the Aryan race, the
Mm-hmm.
air people, the people of air.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are known as the Atlanteans. So in this realm, we are all one race, even though we all look different and we think we are different races, we're not. We are all genetically, physically one race. We are the Atlantean race, cosmically, universally, I'm talking about.
Yes.
So the differences that we see, black, white, Chinese, these are sub-root races. They're not actually different races. We're actually one race.
Right.
And then on the outside, you've got the Lemurians. They live on the realm or the dimension just outside us on our south polar rim. And then the last realm are what you might call the Anunnaki or the Hyperboreans. And of course, the first race to have been created, like I said, that ripple of water would have been the Anunnaki or the Hyperboreans. They were the first beings to be created within this construct or within this universe. And then, of course, the Lemurians were second, and then us Atlanteans were third, and then the Aryans are the latest race of beings to have been created. And then, of course, above all these bubbles, if you like, or all these domes, is what's known as the firmament. And this is where all the stars are rotating above the plane of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the waters above and the waters below. The waters below are what's holding this tree that we live on with the concentric rings. The waters above is the firmament with all the stars and the luminaries and the heavenly bodies, as the ancients, as all the scriptures talk about. So that is the cosmic egg in a nutshell, or in an eggshell, if you like.
I love it. And, you know, it's funny because we were talking about Giuliana Conforto earlier, and who is an astrophysicist. She's Italian. She does a lot of writing in German. A lot of her work is in German and Italian as well. But she talks about similar, you know, from an astrophysicist standpoint, because a lot of times you're right, you know, these things come as intuition, as experiences. We can have things that happen in our nighttime, our dream time, which I feel is a dream field that is just as valid a space as this actual physical space that we're sharing right now in. And she talks about how that, so I'm bringing her up because we're talking about a lot of this, like you were saying, it was coming to you, but then you look outside yourself to ancient stories, and even to physics and these other realms that are really starting to prove a lot of, and a lot of these physicists are going back to a lot of this ancient and older doctrines and stories and pulling back from them. And so she says that this whole firmament is a mirror. It's a plasmic mirror. It's actually the ether that's on the other side, which is the waters above, is also called ether, is sort of a thicker gelatin mass. And this mass acts like a plasma, exactly. And it acts like a mirror. And so it's mirroring back everything that's underneath it to the point of your model. And so all the moons, the star, all the stuff we're seeing are actually land masses and actually other realms being reflected on this mirror of this sort of plasmic field. And so she speaks to that as actually been something that's proven in physics. She says physicists know this. She says, no, it's not a part of the mainstream dialogue because it goes against the left brain acceptable, as she says, the gray matter acceptable paradigms, but that in fact physicists know this. And in that, as we were talking about before, the electroweak field, which is the love field, which is very, very, very fast, connects to this mirror, this whole reflection. And so as we were talking about some earlier, we went on to talk about transmutation and stuff. But to your point there, this is what she describes it from a physics standpoint, very, very similar to your model, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I looked into it about a year ago, and you've reminded me I need to dive back in and see what she's been saying recently. So I think I'm going to get many new aha moments by revisiting her work. You know, she was a big uh, um, a big trigger, I suppose, for that central realm, because she talks about the sun that's
Yes.
at the center of the earth, right?
She has a book called
So,
The Sun that she
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and she said that
Yeah,
the inner sun, the outer sun is just a reflection of the inner sun, you know, in this on the mirror, because she's back to the
yes,
mirror. So that reflection is, yeah, it's deep, you know.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So yeah, so seeing her work on that really opened up many new thought processes and portals for me with regard to the North Pole and what's there, and this Mercury central sun that's at the center of the Earth, of the plane of the Earth, and that realm and what's happening there. So
Right.
yeah, I'm looking. So thank you for that. You've come by divine appointment.
And as well as you have, my friend. This has been some awesome stuff. So we'll go ahead and, you know, close this section of it out as we come up. We've just gone past an hour a little bit there, but definitely we would love to have you back on, and, you know, just continuing the dialogue, because I too, in a lot of the writings that my daily writings that I do in the mornings, you know, I sort of clear in my brain. I download a lot of what I think happens to me in the dream field, but I just keep on getting 18 months, you know. It started about a couple of months ago, this 18-month thing. And, you know, I'm the eternal optimist. So I always believe that, I mean, I really have a tendency to believe that, you know, like, this is not, for me, it's going to be a good thing. I can speak for myself, you know, because it's my optimism that's playing into the field. If you're sort of a pessimist, I don't know what to say about the energies that are collecting. I would suggest that maybe you might want to people may want to flip their thinking regarding their ability to influence the field, you know, the plasmic field, so that, you know, you kind of get the outcome that you want. But, you know, we're seeing that so much is happening. And I know, I want to just throw this out here. I've got to stop. We've got to stop the show, because I'll just keep on talking. Now, and see who's laughing. He knows me. But it was something interesting that was in her work that I just came across a couple of days ago. But it's tying into the event that we just had with the eclipse. And she says that all eclipses, and this has been proven since 1954, a French scientist proved that when an eclipse happens, time reverses. And because he was using one of those pendulums, you know, and when eclipse, a lunar, a solar, anything, it started spinning violently counterclockwise, and it really rewinds time and it resets time. And so she said this is an actual phenomenon. So a lot of times when we're feeling like really out of sorts when these eclipses happen, what's happening right here with our technology. And so as things are ramping up, there's this resetting of time that just keeps on happening. And it kind of goes into a show that I'll be having on Paul's network. He has a different network. We'll be talking about it. But I have this concept that came to me, the 0 point soul reclamation. So we can reclaim our souls in that 0 point, in the moment, every moment you can reclaim. So this idea of reincarnation and all of this stuff is just old stuff nowadays. And we're in that 0 moment. And so when I came across her work, when she was talking about that, I'm like, wow. So if these events reset time, that's nature showing the idea that we're resetting a life flow that we only see as linear. And so the possibilities for all this is just crazy, but I was thinking about that. So I wanted to throw that out there with this being a lunar eclipse. The idea that a lot of this technology and everything, I really believe this is Gaia and the cosmos resetting a lot of stuff and resetting these fields, including technology. You know, so I just wanted to put that out there, that I think that this show is a brilliant example of what's actually going on, and our perseverance to have this interview and move through, you know, fully expecting that this is going to go up and going to go live. And, you know, we've reclaimed this moment, and we're in our future now. We're reclaiming this past moment, you know, of this reset. My goodness.
Beautiful.
Anyway.
We're time traveling.
Yeah, exactly. We're time traveling. So much love to you, Martin, and your family, your lovely wife. Your sons are just adorable. They just remind me of I have one child. I have three kids, 2 girls and a boy. And your son, he was hanging out with you the other day. He just reminds me of my son, Miles. He just like has that same open and expectant look. So hugs to them. Paul, thank you so much, man. You're always, you know, just, we ride and die together. You're awesome. I really appreciate your flexibility, your love, and everything that you do to support our channel.
You're welcome, sister. I'm like your invisible friend today. It's awesome. You know, it's like, it'd be even funnier if only you can actually see me and not even the audience can see me. That'd be.
He's like my invisible friend, but you know, I always say that he's a part of that whole elementals.
Well, I'm mental.
It does seem like you've got an invisible friend.
All righty. I love you guys. Thank you so much, Martin. Appreciate everything.
Oh, thank you, guys.
I can't thank you enough. And we will schedule something in August on the other side of all of this, just to continue the dialogue. And also, I want to say that your channel is Flat Earth Universe, right, on YouTube. And so you can find Martin and a lot of his work over there. And he's also recently started a Patreon community, which I'm a member of. I'm excited. We do Q&As over there. He keeps us updated on a lot of stuff, and it just becomes a place to hang out. And also he shares a lot of his notes, the work that's led him up to this level. If you come in at the $15 level, you get a lot of his work up to this point. And I've enjoyed starting to go through that myself. I think it's awesome. I have a Patreon page myself, so I love Patreon. I think it's an awesome way for your community to support you, and at the same time get a lot of the behind the scenes and the sort of the day-to-day of what's going on. So what is your Patreon link again, Martin?
It's patreon.com Martin Kenny 2020.
Okay, and it's Kenny, Kenny, Martin, Martin. So I'll put some links below the video, but I just wanted to put that out there because, that's all a part of the journey, and I'm supporting you in this whole journey, man, and I just think everyone should. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Robin.
Definitely. All right, well, we'll sign off of this show right now, and until next time. And thank you,
guys.
Yep, thanks, everyone. Take care.
Good night.
All right.